Gotham Season 5, Episode 7, Ace Chemicals. So this, of course, is the episode where Jeremiah officially becomes the Joker. I don't think they're going to actually give him that name. I think I mentioned in my last review, they'll probably still technically save that for, like, the end of the series or something like that. They do technically rescue him, I guess, at the end of the episode. Somehow he pops out of it. You know, they don't actually show what happens, but he's in the hospital. He's got a bunch of burn marks, and he's all messed up. And it's like there are no signs of brain activity and stuff like that. Like, he's no longer a threat. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. I thought they would just be, you know, he dropped in, and then they just thought he was gone because he fell into, like, a vat of boiling, you know, green stuff. So I was like, okay, that's kind of how it'll just play out. But they did, I guess, pull him out. Like, it was super weird to me. I was like, it seems weird that they kind of skipped over them actually pulling him out. I just thought that was interesting. And if that wasn't him, then I'm like, who the F was that in the bandages? So I assume that was him, because if it wasn't, then I'm super confused as to who was in that hospital bed. But I really liked the episode. Like, my favorite part of this episode, without a doubt, was Bruce actually finding his way back home. I love that scene. The funny thing about it, and I think this has to do with my actual history with the Batman character, it was so funny because honestly, when I first saw that scene, I didn't think anything of what happened in the past episodes. I honestly was like, oh, he's hallucinating, because every freaking Batman thing ever always has a moment where Bruce hallucinates seeing his parents. So if you play, like, you know, the Arkham games, like all four of those actually, I'm pretty sure have a scene where he hallucinates seeing his parents. Like, at some point in all those games, there's a scene where he either goes back to where his parents were, or, you know, there's just something in there. And it was so funny when I was watching it. And then I think it was like when he was in the tunnel or something, like actually about to get to the house, that's when it finally clicked. And I was like, oh, no, these are the people, you know, the people who had the plastic surgery done. Because, like I said, every freaking thing, there is some moment somewhere in any Batman thing that you end up seeing, there's going to be a moment where he deals with hallucinating his parents or having a dream about his parents or something. And that's the first thing that came to mind. I was like, oh, he's seeing his parents again. And then I was like, oh, no, those are the actual people. I just forgot. So that was funny to me, but I still love that scene when he actually gets home and he's freaked out and he doesn't know what's happening. And then Alfred's there and he's hypnotized, which ends up being Tetch, which I thought was super cool. So it was great to see him come back, but it was a really fun moment in the episode. Like, I just loved that scene. And then, you know, the other side of the story was actually with Jim and him kind of teaming up with Lee and the issues he's dealing with as far as his insane relationships and Barbara being pregnant, and then him possibly getting back with Lee because they end up making out at the end of the episode. So I'm like, he's going to have the kid and then he's going to be with Lee and all the weird stuff. Like, who the F knows? But it's just insane. It's just really crazy, like, what they're doing with him right now. And it's just like, huh, it's just wild for that dude. But I like what we got to see. Everything really was just going crazy. Like, Jeremiah, of course, being alive, everyone realized that he's alive, so that was pretty wild for them. I like the way that they tied together the opening of the episode with the, like, little Zorro movie. And I was like, oh, that's cool, because for anyone who doesn't know, once again, thanks to my ridiculous amount of time watching Batman stuff, Zorro is, like, the big inspiration for Batman's character. Like, that was true. Like, what they did in this episode, that's legitimately, like, the story in the comic books, where Batman was kind of inspired by Zorro to become a hero. Like, that was kind of the thing, was like this masked crusader. Obviously he doesn't brand people unless you watch Batman v Superman, but aside from that, he doesn't, you know, like, brand people with the giant B or anything like that with the bat symbol. But I was like, that's cool that, you know, they actually utilize that, because in the comic books, that's also the movie that they actually see. Like, sometimes it's Zorro and sometimes it's something else. I can't remember what the other thing is, but most of the time it actually is, like, Zorro is the movie that he watched the night that his parents were murdered, because he did love Zorro so much. So I was like, well, that's super cool. That's like an old school thing for the Batman character. So I like that element of it. And I thought that I was like, okay, well, it's not Zaz. And, you know, you don't think of Zorro very often. So I was like, well, I know it's not going to be Zaz. And I thought maybe something weird was going on with Ed again. And it was like a sideways, and it was some weird riddle that was coming up again. That's what I actually thought in my head. I didn't think any of the attachment to, you know, actually Zorro or anything. But I like the way that ended up being tied together when you actually see the film. And it's like, oh, these are the guys that, you know, got sliced up and that were running through the alleyway at the beginning of the episode who got killed by the Joker toxin. So I thought that was pretty cool. And plus it was green. That was another reason I thought it was Riddler, because I was like, okay, so it's like this weird thing where it's like it's in for Enigma and stuff like that. So I didn't know what was happening, and then of course, the smoke being green was like I think that was on purpose too. It was like okay, you'd be like all right, unless you just go straight to Zoro, which a lot of people probably would because it is such a famous thing. I don't know if younger viewers would probably instantly go to that because when was the last time Zoro was even a big thing, but I thought that was interesting. I was like, I feel like they kind of did that on purpose a little bit, and they made it green and everything. But I love the way it was handled, and the way it ties back in at the end, and then just the way everything was playing out. Like Jim and Lee end up getting captured, and they get hypnotized. So then they're the ones that take the place of the people who were like Bruce's fake parents. And so Jeremiah's like, well, I tried to be brothers with you and bond through love. So I guess now I have to do it through hate. So I'm going to kill the guy that you kind of see as your, new father figure and your great friend, Lee Tompkins. So I'll kill them off. And then, also have the fireworks go off and just wipe everything out in the whole city. So it was pretty nuts. It was a great ending. And Selena actually kind of, she shows up. So she kind of, obviously with everything they talked about before with how she did nothing the first time, she jumps in this time. She ends up saving Jim and Lee. They pull the pearl, so that kind of breaks them out of their little spell. And then Jim ends up taking the truck, so he drives it into the water, which is really the only solution. I was like, unless he takes it into like a really enclosed building, he's just gonna drive it into the water, which is super obvious. And I was like, well, that's not necessarily great either. So it didn't like kill everyone, but obviously once that happened, you just see a bunch of green just pouring out into the water. I was like, that's probably not too great either. So even from the promo, we see some people are severely affected by that. So that should be pretty entertaining to watch. But that kind of makes sense, because the whole thing was like, well, we'll do this, for Jeremiah's plan. Like, we'll set this gas off around the entire city, and then we're totally cut off from the rest of the world 100%. And now this might be that weird middle ground where they're technically not cut off 100%, but now it's like you've infected the water, which of course obviously spreads right across. So that explains why they may or may not have been targeted, by the government, where it's like, we would have rather, really all of you got killed off and died than you screwed up and infected the water supply for everyone over here as well. And just going down the water, eventually it would dissipate. I don't think it would go like out to the ocean. Like, it wasn't that much, but it would affect a lot of people, of course, on both sides of the water. So that could explain how they ultimately end up getting attacked. They do have a quick scene where Jim is, talking to someone, and it's basically like, yeah, we have no idea what, Walker was doing. Like, that was just super crazy. We, no clue. We can't find her either. And it's just like, okay, that's interesting. She had all that power and was doing this super crazy stuff, and nobody had, any idea. So that was very interesting. And now it goes back to like, all right, well, if that was the case, then, the thing with the army at the end of the, or I guess at the beginning of this season, probably is totally based on the whole, poisoning the water element and stuff like that. So I'm like, it should be interesting to see how that plays out, unless it's Walker's army and she recruits even more people, or maybe, she gets people from some of the other dark zones and stuff like that. We still haven't seen quite a few of the characters. We still haven't seen Freeze, Firefly. We've only seen Scarecrow once, so we can see him come back. I assume Zaz will come back as well, probably, during the end of the season as they're all teaming up together. We'll probably see everybody kind of working to pretty much save Gotham, which I think will be cool, but we'll see how it plays out. But I like the episode. Very interesting ending with them having to dump everything into the water. And it's like, all right, well, now there's people in the sewers that are screwed, which once again we saw in the promo. But all in all, it was a fun episode. Like, I like what we got to see. I really love the stuff. Like I said, them at Wayne Manor, favorite part of the episode, because it was just entertaining to watch Bruce stuck in this really weird situation where he's looking at these people who look just like his parents. Alfred is hypnotized, and then they go through this whole situation, the Zorro thing, which, like I mentioned, I love, because I was like, oh, that's cool that they actually use that reference, like that old element from the comics. And them talking about like, this is the part that scared you, and what if it didn't? Like, your parents will probably still be alive, and just the mental element of that, I thought was well done. It was a very good, kind of Joker moment. And Jeremiah just being utterly insane. He's like, I wanted to, like I said, bond as brothers and, be together through love, but now it has to be through hate because you're attached to, the criminal that killed your parents. So now I'll have to be attached to you in that way as well. And, Bruce was like, that won't work if you kill some random people that look like my parents. And it was like, you're right. So I got two other people that matter. So I love the way that was handled. Personally, I thought they did a really great job with that. And we just have to wait and see what happens. I don't know if they're gonna bring Jeremiah back as Joker officially, or what the deal is gonna be with him surviving. Not Harley Quinn, her being in there. I forgot her actual name in the show, but obviously she's meant to be this version of Harley Quinn. Don't know what they're gonna do with her because she completely escaped. So I'm kind of excited to see where they take her character. Kind of just going solo now that he's like totally out of the picture. What's she gonna be doing? Because of course, being basically this version of Harley Quinn, she's gonna have an important role to play. So I'm looking forward to how that's gonna play out, and just in general what they're gonna end up doing. But really enjoyed this episode. Of course, we'll love to know what you guys thought about it. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it, and I would love to know what you guys thought of the potential end, I guess, of Jeremiah, or your theories on what they're gonna end up doing with him by the end of the season, considering it's the final season. What's gonna happen with this character? Is he gonna come back as the Joker? Is he like just out of it, and then we're just gonna see Harley? I would love to know your predictions on that, and like I said, definitely how things played out in this episode. What do you think about the whole Ace Chemicals thing? They fight over the vat, they do the punch, and he falls in. I thought it was well done. It was it was that big moment where he becomes the Joker, so it was kind of cool to see. But I would love to know what you guys thought about this. Gotham's take on Jeremiah falling into the vat and everything like that, and like I said, if you think they're bringing it back, what you want to see, what you think they're going to do with this character in general. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.